You're listening to Bedroom Beethovens, where notable music makers break down stories accompanied by songs and melodies documenting growth through their 10,000 hour journey. And me? Well, my name is Cello, your host.
I am a bedroom Beethoven.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 89 of the podcast. This is an episode where we showcase a trans-genre sound which consists of a mixture of house, electronic funk, and instrumental hip-hop that continues Stone Throw's beatmaker legacy. My guest this week is...
My name is the Twilite Tone, artist, producer, songwriter, DJ, record collector. I've worked with anywhere from the Gorillaz to Kanye West to John Legend to Cody Chestnut, Pusha T, and Common.
Yeah, aka one half of Two Piece Dark.
Way back in the day.
Hey, not even the pandemic has shut down Harold's Chicken. Still going strong.
Exactly.
A lot of people think the foundation of Chicago is the blues, but it's actually soul music. Hip-hop and technology are confused about what producing is. Real producing is the ability to score a human like you're scoring a movie. And in order to understand Tone, you have to meet him to understand his being. So I'm going to do my best I can, considering the circumstances. As he tells me, the Windy City is filled with icons, and he may be too humble to include himself in that group, but I certainly do. Very honored to host him and to promote his new album, The Clearing, which hits in 2 days from now on October the 9th. Really quick, before we begin the deep dive into his 10,000 hour journey, please visit the website, bedroombeethovens.com, and the social channels. Any involvement you do, whether it's liking a video, subscribing, or leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, it's all little micro support actions that help boost the show. So if you enjoy it, hey, would you do me a solid? A little goes a long way, and you have my undying thanks. Last but not least, patreon.com/bedroombeethovens so you can give $1 or $2 to keep the show chugging along. Don't make me open up an OnlyFans. Don't make me do it. Alright guys, let's enter the Twilite Tone. Well, I know when you DJ, you don't get warmed up until an hour or two, but podcasts are kind of a different beast, right? Because we're strangers and we never met, so it's hard to get warmed up immediately. But I'm 35 years old and I've been listening to your music for over 20 years, so you may not know me, but I feel like I know you, if that makes sense.
Okay, well that's great to hear.
I know my podcast isn't lot radio, but I try. So.
That's what's up.
You want to know like the strangest result of this quarantine is comedian Dion Cole has become a DJ, right? And he played a virtual concert and had top billing over Andre Hatchett. And I'm just like, whew.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you got a guy from the south side of Chicago who made it onto, a comedy series on ABC, so he gets top billing over DJs who've been in the game for decades.
Exactly.
The NBA draft doesn't work like that. Only music, it seems.
Exactly.
So growing up near Reserve and LaPlace, I mean, that's right by the Mississippi River, right?
Yeah, it is right off the Mississippi, LaPlace, and Reserve. Yes, there was a levee separating us from the Mississippi River.
So what on earth do you do in a place that has a population of less than 10,000?
You submerge yourself in music, and in those days, kids could go outside and kids would go outside and play all day, and we had a lot of space and a lot of terrain to cover, anywhere from just playing in the backyard or in the field to jumping on our bicycles and riding through swamps and such. And I mean, it was very similar to either like the Goonies or like the movie with the guy Pony Boy and all of those guys. I forget I forget the name of the movie, but had Ralph Macchio and all of those characters in it. But yeah, it was just a lot to do. I was blessed because my stepfather Reserve basically is his family's town. They basically run the town. On every street there's a member of his. There are members of his family. So I was blessed to be surrounded by a tight knit community where everyone spoke to everyone pretty much. It was cool.
And regarding your name, you obviously watched a little bit of the Twilight Zone when you were a kid.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
right before bedtime as a kid. It's like the last thing you did, and then you fell asleep and had some weird. It was kind of like Inception, where you're suddenly in a dream. You don't remember falling asleep. The last thing you remember is like you're in the middle of watching the Twilight Zone, and now you have these psychedelic dreams without taking psychedelics.
Well, that's what the Twilight Zone is. The Twilight Zone is, a period space, just a moment, if not a dimension, where you're in between what is dream and what is concrete, and you basically are like you're walking a tightrope between reality and what is non-reality, and that really interests me, because I felt like when I got more mature and really understood it, I realized that is how life and that is how we are always. We're always walking. We're walking conceptually as we are walking physically. And that really spoke to me. Even before I totally grasped that, I was just wanting a cool name. And I just wanted something that was cool as the names that I was hearing that I looked up to. And it just so happened to manifest, and it evolved my name as I evolved.
Because No I.D gave you the final, like, hey, you should name yourself this.
No, not at all. No I.D, who was formerly a Minslow, when we were working on Common's first album, I could not stand his name, and I flipped his name backwards. His name is Dion, so I flipped it backwards. And I said, well, I didn't want to call him Noid because there was a rapper Noid who was with Mobb Deep. And I was like, oh, No I.D. And I said, man, you should call yourself No I.D. And him being kind of flip and comedic, he was like, well, you should call yourself Why Not, which was Tony backwards. But the name of Twilite Tone was conceived and bestowed upon me by myself at a very young age. Very young age.
And it's funny, like, so that came from television, and like right now, like the presidential debates are going on right now, but I guess we'll just hear about the recap tomorrow because you don't own a TV, right?
Well, when I lived in New York about 3-4 years ago, for about a stint of 10 years or so, I did not own a TV. I did not watch TV. In the interim of that, I might have had a TV when I was in Bushwick for like a year. We might have had a television that it wasn't connected to cable or to, we just watched like DVDs and videotape. But I went a long time without watching television. It was probably one of the best things I could have done for myself.
I bet. I mean, I wish I could do it. I don't even know if I have the willpower, but like you said, though, gone are the days where Michael Jackson can influence a presidential election. We got a rough 4 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
And so, the back and forth of moving around, you finally land in Chicago. Hyde Park's kind of where it started.
Yeah, well, it started for me in Chatham. And then, upon coming back to Chicago, I knew that the high school that I would have been forced to go to because of the district, I didn't want to go to that high school. I wanted to go. My mother was like, "Oh, you need to go to Kenwood Academy in Hyde Park." And so we made arrangements for me to stay with my cousins, who I was blessed to Facklers. And I stayed there when the truant officers showed up. And so I was able to go to school in Hyde Park. Hyde Park is where I guess I really started to hone my craft. I started, yes, on the South Side proper at my great grandmother's home, and my grandmother's home, who lived right across the street from my great grandmother. But it really started to take shape in Hyde Park.
And that's where like Omaron and No I.D. y'all would go over Common's house.
Yeah, so Omar I was introduced to by my uncle, and he became a friend of mine in sophomore year. He was older than me by a year. However, I sort of assisted and, kind of taught him, helped to guide him and shape him as a rapper, as an artist, as a rap artist. And while I made music, I met Rashid, Dion, Derek, and at the time this gentleman by the name of Corey. They had a rap group. I met them through a group that I was in, we actually did dance music, and I sang in that group. So when I met them, they didn't think they thought I was the farthest thing from quote unquote hip hop. And I told them like yo man, I DJ, I beatbox, I rhyme, whatever. But they didn't. They laughed. They didn't think so. So they came up with an audition or such. And then I showed up for the audition, and I did. I showed them my skills as a DJ and such, and then I became the DJ of their group. And the rest is kind of history.
Is Corey a little bit sore that he kind of had to watch all y'all blow up from the sidelines? He kind of walked away.
No, not at all. Corey had other ambitions, and he's a very present family man and father and husband. So that wasn't his purpose on the planet to pursue music. I don't believe, and what I know of Corey, and that is from afar, is that he's he's pretty content and happy.
So the uncle that introduced you to Omaron, is that the uncle, the one that was in the 5 stair steps and the Staples?
Exactly, Hassan Khan. He was a bassist. He was a very young bassist when he was working with the 5 stair steps. He played with. He was the bassist. He was very young when he was a bassist for the Staples Singers. They used to rehearse in my grandmother's basement. And he was also in the band of Baby Huey. You may know Baby Huey from the record that they sampled for the Can I Kick It remix.
I'm sick and tired of having so many hard times, baby. And from my body,
I mean, do you guys ever like sit back and wonder, like, the most famous con isn't like a blood con? It was someone who had, a brief marriage 50 years ago, and she used that name. I'm talking about Shaka Khan, and it rose to iconic status. I mean, that's got to trip you guys out.
I personally am not tripped out. And my uncle has never spoke on that in an adverse way. First of all, Chicago is a reservoir of icons. And whether you know them or not, it's a reservoir of gigantic, ginormous, multifaceted gods on all different levels, even beyond music. So Shaka, being Shaka, is not shocking. And because Hassan being Hassan, it makes sense. So no, it's no bad blood. It's no, oh, she jacked the name. It's none of that. It's like Shaka is supposed to be Shaka. She was supposed to do that. Whether her name was Yvette Stevens or not, it's just that Shaka Khan is probably more marketable.
If there's any like overlap, like, you know, when it came out that Shaka Khan didn't like Through the Wire, you know, if you talk to Kanye and you make a suggestion in the studio like, hey, why don't we use the drums off I Feel For You, or let's sample this, or let's use the synths from My Love Is Alive, would she still be receptive to stuff like that?
Would Shaka be receptive to that?
Yeah, if that suggestion is coming from you.
I don't know. I think just based off of my knowledge of Shaka Khan, I just think it's about it being at a certain level, and a level that is in alignment with who Shaka Khan is and what she represents. I think her issue with the Through the Wire wasn't the fact that Kanye sampled it; it was the fact that he flipped it to chipmunk status, and that just,
Right.
you know, if you think, come on, it's Shaka Khan. You know what I mean? It's Shaka Khan. It's Shaka Khan vocals. So I know at the time when Kanye was doing it, he wasn't doing it to be distasteful or even disrespectful, as that was his kind of like signature, doing the sped up soul samples. It's just that to, like you said, an icon like Shaka Khan is kind of like, man, would you flip a Malcolm X speech on 45 and play it back and think he'd be like, that's cool? No, he'd be like, yo, where's the bass in my voice? See, I sound like a chipmunk. So I think that's what it was. I don't think it was, oh, this young dude is sampling to me. What the hell? No, I think it was just, hey, man, there's a better way you could do that. From her perspective, not maybe really understanding the vogueness, if I may use that as a word, at the time of speeding up a sample and using it as in a rap song like that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you're trying to figure something out for the first time, it's a swing and a miss. Maybe like when you were a DJ back in the day, maybe the goal was, how do I get so-called house and so-called hip hoppers on one dance floor? How do I approach that? And when you're figuring out that formula, maybe you don't figure it out on day one.
Well, I don't think. I think sometimes, if not oftentimes, and what I've learned in my career and in my lifetime is, as opposed to forcing a thing to happen, be deliberate and intentional. However, also allow things to come into fruition, come into harvest. And that's why I say now, I don't hustle. I don't believe in hustling. I believe in harvesting. And now that I am a garden owner, if not next to someone who is rearing a garden, and that is my partner, my lady. I have a better appreciation of allowing things to come into fruition. And so something like getting people from different sides, in one aspect, yes, you have to be patient, but the other aspect, it kind of was just innate, because really being present to dance floors coming from different perspectives, and really being present to your city and really understanding that, it just naturally came together. Now it got better before it got worse, and then it got better again once I was authentic with myself.
Yeah, if I'm going by what you just said, and I looked at two videos that I just love. I saw some old footage from '91 where you're at the home base in New York and you're on stage with no beard, you're being a hype man. And then I saw another video right after that, you playing the conga room in LA. You were DJing and you spliced in Fall in Love by Slum Village, and Stevie Wonder's on stage with a mic going back and forth with you, singing, ooh, girl, I love you so. And it's like, wow, he went from that to this, and even now, it's like you're even greater then. So it's, if you stick to that formula, I mean, the evidence is evident.
Thank you.
And you know, back then though, whether it was the home base or Rap City, Common would always have you guys there. It was rare to have a rapper have his production team with a camera on them in interviews. I mean, even today, you don't really see that.
Well, I think the thing was, to speak about those days, I believe that, and it was the case, that we were more of, because if you think about Boogie Down Productions, it wasn't just KRS-One. It was a crew of people. It was KRS-One, Scott LaRock, D Nice, Kenny Parker. It was a bunch of people, Boogie Down Productions. With Common Sense, or Common, even though it was Common, just like with Big Daddy Kane, it was more than just him. Like I said, either Dion would DJ and I would do the hype men, or, we were a crew. And we were the goal was to support one another as a collective, and as individuals as well.
And I think it was that real loyalty, because it wasn't really until Resurrection where things started to get to where they needed to be. Can I Borrow a Dollar? It was released to fanfare, but then you opened up for Luke and FAMU. You're the hype man, and they're throwing pennies at you. I mean, you're ducking loose change, or you're opening up for KRS-One, and you're passing out sampler tapes in the crowd, and it comes right back to you. That's a crazy response, because you're on MTV and you're on BET. I read that No I.D. only got paid $1,600 for producing 8 songs on that album. So I think what got you guys through was that bond, because that would have broke a lot of people back then.
Right.
I mean, is that out of bounds to say?
Which that we had loyalty with one another.
I think so. I mean, I think you guys went through a lot, and it's like, you guys even opened up for NWA a few years prior. And then there was some beef between like this West Coast, East Coast stuff.
But that was way earlier than the whole West Coast, East Coast thing. But
that was like in 88, right? You opened up for them in like the late 80s.
Yeah, it was like 87, 88. We were teenagers.
Maybe it was deeper than just misinterpreted lyrics, right? Maybe everyone just kind of got caught up in the hype.
Which part?
How that whole beef started. I mean, I guess the story depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
And Pete Rock stepped in to produce that diss record, so maybe you just felt a little uneasy about being part of that whole war. Like, I don't want anything to do with that.
No, it was something that Rashid had chosen to do, and he wanted to respond to what Ice Cube and those guys had said about him, and then that was that. I mean, honestly, that was so long ago, and I'm so far removed from that. I don't really know all the nuances of all of that.
All right, well let's get a little bit closer to the present time. We don't have to spend our time there. Like, if let's say you're working on Humans now. It comes out. It's a Gorillaz album. Debuts at #1 in 40 countries worldwide. How do you react? Mm-hmm. Do you not care? Are you not surprised? Does it validate your work? How does the Twilite Tone? What's your attitude towards something like that?
Well, my attitude towards a record being #1 in 40 countries is that I'm in deep appreciation for that condition that I'm witnessing with my 5 senses. I thought that the album was great, and people often think their work that they're doing is great, and it probably is great. The thing is to get a collection, a multitude of people to be in alignment with what you think is great.
Momentary pain can be pleasure lane, millisecond change, magic lantern strains. Are we just too far to be as one again? Are we obsidian? Is this how it ends?
What you are offering, what you are saying, they are agreeing with your sentiments, the statement that you made. That is divine, and that is a blessing. And yes, did it validate that my greatness or who I am and what my contribution to that project? Of course it did, because it was millions of people saying this record is incredible. And I knew that I was fully present, and I did my best.
Yeah, so you have a track like Strobe Light where you have Mr. Everett, Jamie, Damon, Vic Mensa's in your studio, and you're able from beginning to end knock out a track in an hour. And to achieve something that fast, you have to work preemptively, right? Where you set a mark and then they hit that mark and you're already setting them up with the next mark. So you're pulling your collaborators through while at the same time they're pushing you through.
Yeah, I mean, it is still sharpening steel. Is it a sword sharpening swords? And it's like I said, if you want the best and you do your best and you surround yourself with the best, I mean, the outcome should be in alignment with that. And when I say best, I mean like your personal best, not better than someone else.
Yeah, it's funny though. It's like I think we were talking about when you hear a new genre, how do you approach it? I remember I watched 106 in Park when I was a teenager, and they used to have a thing called the new joint of the day. I feel like I'm explaining to kids what Yo MTV Raps is. It seems that old, but it's really not. But they played the Clint Eastwood by the Gorillaz, and I remember afterwards, Free and AJ would ask the crowd, like, "What do you think of the new joint today?" And everyone's like, "Man, that is trash. I can't vibe with it. Nope, not for me." And it didn't matter that Del touched it, De La Soul touched it, Dan the Automator touched it. It was new. It was a sound that they didn't hear before. It was an animated cartoon walking around in the video, like. How dare I be exposed to something other than chains and whips and girls? And it was that moment there that I really decided, me personally, that I should expand my palette and not just watch the same Cash Money videos over and over and over when I was a teen. And I really do accredit that to like the Gorillaz, and it's kind of cool to see your involvement and how they've evolved.
Yeah, I think that's what disruptors do. And I think, unfortunately, the music is not made for you to be a disruptive element, which is a agent for freedom. I think the music as a whole now is really to have you conform, and it is working.
Well, talking about disruptors and everything, Kanye West has been going on this tirade lately about music contracts. I know you've done a lot of co-producing on his album, so that all this other stuff that really goes over my head. So, being in the business for 25 plus years and signing this new deal with Stone's Throw.
Every move that I make is calculated. And also, I have wise advisors. And the one thing that I learned is that you get what you negotiate, not what is fair. And so you have to, the moves that you make, you have to say, well, what do I want out of this? Because everybody's move is not necessarily the best move for the next person. You know what I mean? These are your moves that you're making. These are your sacrifices. These are your choices. So I have no judgment on anyone outside of me, and I really don't. I don't put myself out there to even attract judgment from anyone else about the kind of business moves that I make. I just say that I don't. For me, it's not really about industry. It's really about purpose, and it's really about service. So at this point in time, Stone's Throw is allowing me the platform to be of service and to show myself authentically in my purpose.
Does this release differ like from a decade back when you released music on the worst record company? Like maybe Peanut Butter Wolf understands you better than Roy Dank and you're able to make something closer to who you are. Maybe something on a deeper level.
I don't know if necessarily that Wolf understands me more than Roy. I just say that it's a more established brand that is more tailor-made for where I am at and where I'm at now. I think if Roy Dick had continued forward, his brand would probably be as large, if not maybe larger. I don't know. I just know, and I think Roy Dick left his own devices with his label did incredible. At the time that he was doing those releases, and at the time that I was working with him, it was, for what it was great, and he was getting a lot of traction. I just say that Stone's Throw they are a legacy culture brand, if not company, that knows how to take their niche and make it an option for a larger market. And they are loyal to their cult followers.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know you on a personal level, but when I figured out that you were signed to them and you were releasing, I was like, that it just seems like a good fit, even though I don't know much about both sides. Mm-hmm. So creating this album, obviously it set forth a journey for you, like the evolution of the Chicago dance music scene, as well as the evolution of underground hip hop. So that kind of pushed you to find like the sounds that we hear on this album. Was there anything surprising or caught you off guard when you were creating this album?
Oftentimes I'll make something and then I'll go to sleep and then I'll listen to it the next day and I'm like, wow, that really sounds good. And if that's what you mean by being caught off guard, then yes. And as I was saying before, like what I'm doing now is just, as it is deliberate and intentional, it's also innate. So it's not a contrived motion or action or movement by myself to kind of marry these things. It's like, this is who I am. And the more I embrace that, the better I feel, the better the art, according to my standards, is for me, because I'm basically cooking for myself and sharing what I'm cooking with the public.
Yeah, because I know when you play your music for a lot of people, their reaction could get wide-eyed, like, "What is this? I have never heard anything like this before." And I didn't know if you kind of approached this project, like maybe you wanted people to get wide-eyed when they heard this project.
Well, yeah, I mean, I personally, I want people to be like, I want them to like rethink their life. I want them to have an epiphany. Like, I want it to cause epiphanies. I want them to think, am I in the right place with what I'm doing? Because hearing this is in the right place at the right time. And this is hitting the mark. Do I do that with what I do on a day-to-day basis? Am I in alignment with my purpose? Do I know my purpose? Am I really being authentic? Do I have a clearing? Or am I hustling?
And you never hustle.
I do my best not to. It's a difficult challenge when you are responsible for things. But I think Noah didn't hustle when he built the ark. He harvested. Even though his wife and other people was like, man, what are you doing? You should be doing this and da 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 da. He was just like, I'm gonna build this giant boat, and you will see.
Oh, that's a great analogy. And I know you used to sing back in the day, but we're going to keep it instrumental, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to get some slick talking on there? Nothing?
Not on this album. That's hilarious. Not on this album. It's not time for that. The clearing is a complete project. And each song is as it is an instrumental, it is a song. The clearing is an instrumental project without lyrical narrative for a reason, to cause you to think, to cause you to allow your inner voice to speak to you when you use this album as stimuli.
Well, is there anything about the album that you want to say that I wasn't able to, I guess, convey into words? I want to give you the floor if there's anything else.
Well, first of all, you wouldn't be able to convey into words my project. Only I could do that.
That's why I didn't even attempt. I look like a fool.
And I mean that, and I mean that to say, like, you could give an interpretation of what the project is, of course. But my intentions, I think it would be best served from me. The project, it is simple as an instrumental album that, possibly you will say it sounds good. And it is what is the word? Layered as any well-written story.
Would it be fair to say, like, you get out of the album what you put in? If you just put your headphones on and you give it a surface listen, you can nod your head, but if you really listen, it can be life-changing. You'll get more out of it.
I believe if you just be present and don't even think about it, like, don't think. Like, literally, in the beginning, to do it properly is like, have you forgotten that once we were brought here, we were robbed of our name? I'm saying all of those things, let them go. And I'm saying just be present. Let go of your preconceived notions. Like the beginning of this conversation, most of the conversation at the top was all about the past. And I'm no longer there. As great as those things were, I'm no longer there. So if you just come to the conversation clean slate and be present to what you don't know, that's when epiphanies are caused. That's when paradigms shift. So if you come to the album the same way you come to conversations, sir, and you listen to this album in that way, I believe, and it is prescribed in that way, that you may very well have a clearing of your own.
Oh man, I hope I approach this the right way. But for me, the greatest respect that I can afford you is that when you give someone your time, you have to make sure that person knows all of your contributions to sound, your value as a human. So I just hope that this interview resonated that point. Like, oh, he's not just a journalist who knows about this last album. I just wanted to let you know I know about your contributions, your value. You know what I mean? So I'm very excited for the clearing on Stone's Throw. And there is something else I wanted to say because in the spirit of doing all that I can for Chi-Town, Situation Chicago supports independent music venues of Chicago, so artists always have stages to perform. So they're releasing a double vinyl, and it brings 25 of Chicago's best bands, and it supports 25 of Chicago's favorite live music venues that are closed as a result of the pandemic. You're on that. You're on side A, so you don't have to spin it that long to hear you. I encourage everyone to pick it up. Just go to Bandcamp at situationchicago.com and select independent record stores. So
Nice.
hope I covered everything, Tone. I have just an immense respect for you as a musician and as a person, and for you to come on my show, man. It means a lot. So thank you.
Man, dude, thank you. And I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate your thoroughness. And, it's very important to me that, people see me in the now, and in that way, when they go back, they'll have a better understanding. You know what I mean? It's like, it's my goal to really convey that. And I just leave it at that.